Welcome to the channel. Today's story will leave you shocked and questioning everything you think you know about justice. It begins on a cold, misty night. A decorated Black War veteran, once a hero, now forgotten by the world, is asleep under a broken streetlight. But in just moments, a police officer will stop in front of him and do something that no one saw coming. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments where in the world are you watching from. And if you love gripping true-life stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Music swells fade into first scene of the story. The night was colder than usual in downtown Atlanta. Streetlights flickered weakly against the damp mist crawling through the alleyways, making the shadows stretch like restless ghosts. On the corner of Peachtree and Auburn Avenue, under the rusted steel awning of an abandoned laundromat, lay Marcus Hale. Marcus was not just another man on the streets, though to strangers that's all they saw. His gray wool blanket was torn at the edges, his boots were worn to the sole, and his army duffel bag served as a pillow. The occasional sound of tires screeching or distant sirens didn't bother him anymore. After years in the military, after dodging bullets in places where every shadow meant death, the noise of a city was child's play. Still, life had hit him harder than any war zone. He had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He had been decorated for bravery. He had stood under a burning sun for hours to protect his unit from an ambush. But medals didn't pay rent, and PTSD had turned his nights into battlegrounds. Jobs came and went, relationships dissolved, and eventually the streets became his final deployment. That night, his sleep was shallow, interrupted by dreams of helicopters and sandstorms. He stirred when heavy boots approached. The sound was different, measured, deliberate, not the hurried steps of a passerby, not the drunken stagger of someone leaving a bar. When Marcus opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the beam of a flashlight cutting through the darkness. A police officer stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp jawline and eyes that didn't blink much. His name tag read, R. McKinley. "You can't sleep here," the officer said, his tone flat but carrying an undercurrent Marcus couldn't quite place. Marcus pushed himself up slowly, blinking against the light. "I'll move," he muttered, voice gravelly. "Just give me a minute." Officer McKinley didn't move the flashlight. Instead, he scanned Marcus's duffel bag, the patchy blanket, and the single dog tag glinting faintly in the light. "What's your name?" McKinley asked. Marcus hesitated. "Why? I'm not breaking any law." The cop crouched slightly, lowering the light just enough to reveal his face. "Name?" Marcus sighed. Marcus Hale." McKinley repeated the name quietly, as if testing it in his mind. "Hale. You military?" Marcus glanced at his boots, then at the dog tag. "Used to be." McKinley's jaw tightened. "Where'd you serve?" "Afghanistan. Twice. But that was a long time ago." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Look, officer, if you're here to move me along, I'll go. I'm not looking for trouble." McKinley didn't respond immediately. He took a slow step closer. "Trouble has a way of finding you, doesn't it?" Marcus's instincts kicked in. He sat up straighter, watching every movement. There was something in the cop's voice, something that wasn't just about enforcing the law. Then came the crack, not of a weapon but of McKinley's boot hitting Marcus's duffel bag, sending it rolling into the gutter. "What the hell?" Marcus snapped, scrambling to grab it, but McKinley stepped on the strap. "Gotta make sure you're not carrying anything illegal," McKinley said coldly. "I've got nothing," Marcus growled. "Just clothes," and McKinley reached inside without permission, pulling out a folded army jacket, a half-empty water bottle, and a worn leather notebook. He flipped the notebook open, scanning a page before tossing it into the wet sidewalk. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. "That's mine." McKinley's face was unreadable. "The city's got shelters. You could be there instead of camping out here." "I don't do shelters," Marcus said. "Too many fights, too many thieves." McKinley smirked. "So you choose the street. Makes sense." Marcus's patience snapped. "Listen, officer, I've been shot at. I've carried dying men on my back, and I've done more for this country than you can imagine. I'm not here to cause problems." McKinley's eyes narrowed. "And yet here you are, lying in a doorway like trash." Marcus froze. The words cut deeper than he expected. But before he could respond, McKinley stepped back and spoke into his radio. "Dispatch, I've got a male, mid-40s, possible vagrant. Going to run a check." Marcus felt his gut tighten. "For what?" "I told you my name." "Just protocol," McKinley said, though his tone was laced with something personal. Static buzzed through the radio. "Copy that, Officer McKinley. Stand by." They waited. The mist thickened, curling around their feet. Marcus could hear the distant hum of a street cleaner, the occasional car passing by. Then, something in McKinley's expression shifted. It was subtle, but Marcus caught it, the way his eyes flicked, the tightness in his jaw. The radio crackled again. Be advised. Marcus Hale, former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, awarded Silver Star, honorably discharged. No outstanding warrants. McKinley looked at Marcus again, but this time there was no mockery in his gaze. There was something else. Calculation. You were a sergeant, McKinley said slowly. Yeah, Marcus replied. What's it to you? McKinley didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for the duffel bag and without warning tossed it back to Marcus. Then he did something Marcus didn't expect. He sat down, on the wet concrete, right next to him. Marcus stared, unsure whether to laugh or prepare for another insult. You know, McKinley said quietly, not every cop hates the people they stop. Some of us are just looking for something. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Looking for what? McKinley leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. The truth, and I think you've got more of it than you let on. Marcus's muscles tensed again. What do you mean? McKinley's eyes locked on his. Something happened out here last week. A shooting, and I think you saw it. Marcus blinked. What are you talking about? McKinley didn't break eye contact. You were sleeping right here the night it went down, and I need to know exactly what you saw. Do you want me to come? A week ago, he said. I mind my business. Your business is survival, McKinley replied. Survival means eyes open. Tell me what you saw. A bottle clinked behind the bins. Marcus angled toward the sound. Who's asking? McKinley the cop, or McKinley the man? The one who doesn't want another body on his beat. Start with the basics. Marcus rolled his dog tag like a coin. A van. Black. No plates. Parked where the laundromat's roof bleeds into the curb. I thought delivery until the engine never cut. Time, after 2. The church bell hit twice. The van blinked once. A signal. Then a sedan slid in from Peachtree. Windows tinted. Bass crawling. You see faces. 1. Driver in the sedan. Pale scar on the chin. Head shaved tight. Jacket with a hawk stitched on the sleeve. He tapped the wheel like a clock. Passenger door opened. Safeties clicked. Caliber. Sounded like suppressed 9s. Tight strings. Neighbors heard short bursts. McKinley said. 2 victims confirmed. 1 missing. Missing. Witness. Or target. I pulled a casing that night, he added. Not from either weapon we found. Unique primer strike. Someone else stood here. Why me? The block's cameras went down within 3 minutes, he said. That doesn't happen by accident. Someone cut them. Someone wanted the only record to be whoever stayed awake. You. I smelled bleach 10 minutes after the shots, Marcus said. The van door cracked. A gloved hand dumped a bag into the drain. Then both vehicles idled, listening. No sirens. They peeled out opposite directions. What drain? Marcus pointed at a rusted grate. McKinley stepped over and clicked his flashlight. Something thin and reflective lay wedged in slime. He pulled on nitrile gloves, teased the object free with a pen. A laminated card surfaced, smeared but legible. Access badge, Midtown Tech Labs. Photo scraped, edges cut. On the back, a dusty fingerprint. McKinley slid it into an evidence sleeve. You touch this. I'm not new. The radio crackled. Unit 12, disturbance at Auburn and Cortland. Possible assault. Need and available. Stay here, McKinley said. I move when I choose, Marcus said. But I'll be here. McKinley jogged away. The mist took him. Marcus pulled his duffel close and found his leather notebook, edges soaked. He flipped to a sketch. 6 slats. Badge gone. Bumper scraped left. A shadow cut the alley. A young woman stepped from behind the dumpster. Thrift store parka, hood up, breath visible. She hugged a knapsack like it hid something. You, Marcus? She asked. He didn't answer. Doesn't matter. She slid a folded plastic sleeve across the concrete with her foot. He's coming back. Don't let him see it. She vanished toward Cortland. Marcus opened it. Inside lay a USB drive wrapped in tape and a torn calendar scrap. Hawk unit. Tuesday drop. LT okayed. Hawk. Marcus pictured the hawk patch and felt his stomach turn. He hid the drive beneath a stitched tear. McKinley returned. Jaw tight. False alarm. 2 guys fighting over a charger. He scanned the alley. Anything happen? Just the city breathing. Bleach tracks with reports, McKinley said. You got a place to warm up? Soup van hits Edgewood at 5. Until then, this roof is mine. I can get a motel voucher. I'm not a charity box. It's not charity, he said. It's strategic. Safer if fewer people know where you sleep. Why do you care? The unmarked sedan matched a vehicle in a task force file, McKinley said. Every time we got close, someone upstairs said stand down. Now 2 are dead, 1 missing, and cameras went blind. Sounds like your problem eats cops. It eats anyone without leverage. I'm asking for help. You want leverage? Start with the hawk. You noticed it. Driver's sleeve, military patch. Could be private, could be police. There's a county adjunct, McKinley said. HAWK, High Action Warrant Keepers, quiet unit. They run midnight hits? They shouldn't. A rumble grew. Headlights flared at the alley mouth. Doors slammed. Boots thudded. 3 men in dark jackets advanced, caps low, no badges. The lead man's chin showed a pale scar. "Evening, officer," he said, smooth. "Routine check." "Identify yourselves," McKinley said. "County adjunct," Scar replied, flashing a wallet. "Report of illegal camping and narcotics." "No narcotics," McKinley said. "Camping code is city." "We'll help." He swung his beam at Marcus. "Stand up, hands visible." Marcus stood, palms out. "You got a warrant?" "We have cause." McKinley stepped in. "You'll log your presence and submit body cam." "Malfunction." "Wet night." Marcus measured positions. Dumpster left, ladder 3 strides right, glass shard near his boot, alley mouth blocked, third flanking. "Open the bag," Scar ordered. Marcus lifted the zipper an inch, showing blanket and a battered canteen. Scar stepped, shoulder angled, hand near a concealed holster. A bus roared past. In that second, a fourth silhouette appeared, a thin older man pushing a rattling cart, known on the line as Choir. His cart clipped Scar's shin. Scar flinched. Marcus moved. He hurled the canteen at the rear light. It struck. Light died. Darkness surged. He shoved the duffel at Scar's knees and yanked the fire escape ladder. Metal shrieked as it dropped. He threw it into the flanker's path. "Hands off." McKinley barked. "Step back." A taser cracked. Choir yelped and ducked behind his cart. Marcus climbed 2 rungs, then froze. Scar stood with a pistol half drawn. "Careful, Sergeant," Scar murmured. "Tall falls break old bones." McKinley's gun appeared. "Holster it," he said. "No civilian gets shot tonight." Scar smiled. "Then make him come down." Marcus breathed, lowered 1 foot, eyes on the Scar. Sirens murmured far off, swallowed by the buildings. Diesel fumes drifted in from the street, sharp enough to sting. Choir's low humming threaded the dark, a thin line that held. Rain began to tick on metal, counting seconds nobody wanted. No one moved first. The ladder creaked once. McKinley's stance didn't waver, his sidearm still trained on Scar. I said, "Holster it." Scar didn't blink. The pistol stayed half raised, its black muzzle pointed somewhere between Marcus and McKinley. "You think this is your scene, officer?" Scar said smoothly. "It's bigger than you." "I don't care how big it is," McKinley replied, voice steady. "You draw down on my civilian, you're on my time." Marcus's fingers tightened on the rung. "Civilian." He almost laughed. McKinley didn't know half of what Marcus had carried in his past life. The rain made the ladder slick. But Marcus stayed still, eyes scanning the 3 men blocking the alley mouth. All wore the same dark jackets, all had the same empty gaze. The flanker, the one Marcus had hit with the ladder earlier, now stood breathing hard, his hand on his ribs. He muttered something to Scar. Scar gave a small nod. Then, suddenly, Scar lowered his pistol and stepped back. "We'll find him again," he said, gesturing for his men to move. The 3 turned, walking with calculated slowness toward the mouth of the alley. But Marcus knew men like that never truly left. They regrouped. When the sound of their boots faded into the hum of the wet street, McKinley lowered his weapon. "You all right?" he asked. Marcus dropped from the ladder, landing lightly. "I'm standing, ain't I?" McKinley holstered his gun. "That hawk patch, they're not supposed to operate like that. Someone's using them off book." Marcus zipped his duffel fully closed. "And you think they care about rules? They just came into a city alley without calling it in. That's not a slip-up. That's a mission." McKinley's radio crackled again. A dispatcher's voice. "Unit 12, are you clear at your location?" McKinley pressed the button. "Affirmative. Clear." Then, turning to Marcus, "They'll be back. You can't stay here." Marcus shook his head. "I've been on the run before. I'm not letting them chase me into a corner. And I'm not letting them find whatever they're looking for." McKinley's eyes sharpened. "What are they looking for?" Marcus hesitated. His mind went to the USB hidden inside the stitched tier of his bag. The young woman's face flickered in his memory. The words on that scrap of paper, "Hawk Unit, Tuesday drop, LT okayed." "Something they can't afford to let anyone else see," Marcus finally said. McKinley took a slow breath, then glanced at the drain where they'd found the badge. "You need to trust me if we're going to stay ahead of this." Marcus gave a dry laugh. "Trust? I've seen too many badges point both ways." McKinley didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black rectangle, a burner phone. "Keep this on you. I'll call when I find something. Don't call me unless you have to. And if you see that hawk patch again, you get somewhere public fast." Marcus took the phone, slipping it into his coat. "And where will you be?" "Following a trail the department doesn't want followed." The rain slowed. McKinley gave one last look around, then walked off into the mist. Marcus waited until the sound of his boots faded before moving. He crossed the street, weaving through shadows, until he reached the back entrance of a boarded-up church. The lock was long gone, and the place smelled of mildew and old incense. He found a corner in the nave, pulled out his notebook, and began to write down every detail of the last hour. Scar's scar, the way the flanker favored his ribs, the sound of their boots, heavy, military issue, but with city-grade treads. Then he took out the USB drive, turning it over in his hands. The tape was frayed in places, as if it had been removed and replaced many times. Marcus had no laptop, but he knew someone who did, someone who owed him a favor from years back. But getting to that person meant crossing 3 districts, and if the Hawk unit was looking for him, they'd have eyes everywhere. A floorboard creaked behind him. Marcus spun, instinct bringing the blade of a folding knife into his palm. From the shadows, a figure emerged. Quire, the cart-pushing man from earlier. His hands were raised, empty. "You've got a storm on you, Sergeant," Quire said softly. Marcus didn't lower the knife. "What do you know? More than I should, less than they think. And if you keep walking blind, you won't make it past sunrise." Quire's gaze flicked to Marcus's duffel. "Whatever you're carrying, don't trust the cop too much, and don't stay in one place." Marcus frowned. "You sound like you've met them before." "I've served with them before," Quire said. The words hung in the damp air. Before Marcus could ask more, the sound of an engine idled outside the church, low and steady. Quire's eyes hardened. "They're already here." Marcus grabbed his duffel, stuffing the USB deep inside. Quire gestured toward a side door. "Not the front. They'll expect that." The 2 men moved quickly through the side passage. The wood was slick under their boots, every creak sounding louder than it should. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the air carried that heavy stillness before something breaks. As they reached the alley behind the church, headlights swung around the corner, too fast, too deliberate. Marcus and Quire pressed themselves into the shadows, the rumble of the engine growing closer. The van rolled into view, black, no plates, and in the dim light spilling from a broken street lamp, Marcus saw it, painted just above the front wheel arch. The Hawk emblem glistened under the broken street lamp, water droplets tracing down its sharp wings. Marcus's jaw tightened. The same van from that night. No mistaking it. Quire's voice was barely a whisper. "They've got heat sensors. We can't just stand here." Marcus's eyes swept the alley, dumpsters to the left, a chain-link fence with barbed wire to the right. Beyond that, an overgrown lot. "You climb. Better than I preach," Quire said. The van's engine cut. The silence was louder than the rumble. A side door slid open with a metallic scrape. 2 men jumped out, same jackets, same empty eyes. One carried a short, compact submachine gun. The other had a heavy flashlight and a sidearm holstered low. Marcus tugged Quire toward the fence. They moved slow at first, too fast and movement would catch in the corner of an eye. Footsteps hit the alley pavement. The beam of the flashlight sliced across the dumpsters, pausing, then sweeping toward the fence. Marcus and Quire dropped to a crouch. The flashlight's beam just grazed the top of the fence, then turned back toward the dumpsters. "They're clearing both ends," Marcus muttered. "We've got seconds." He reached the fence and pressed down the lower link, boosting Quire up first. Quire swung a leg over just as the flashlight returned. "Stop," a voice barked. Marcus shoved Quire down on the other side and vaulted himself. His coat caught on a barb, he ripped it free, dropping hard onto wet soil. Gunfire erupted behind them, 3 short bursts that chewed into the fence. Marcus yanked Quire toward the lot's far corner, weaving between rusted car frames and weeds as tall as a man. The van's engine roared to life again. Tires squealed. "They'll circle," Quire panted. "Cut us off." Marcus spotted a gap in the fence at the far end, barely wide enough for a person to slip through. He pushed Quire ahead, then squeezed through himself, tearing the shoulder of his jacket. On the other side was a service road, dark and empty except for a single flickering security light outside a warehouse. Marcus led them along the building's side, keeping low. A door opened ahead, light spilled out, and a man stepped into the doorway, smoking. He froze when he saw them. "Inside," Marcus ordered. The man blinked. "What?" Marcus pushed him back into the building, Quire right behind. They shut the door and killed the light. The smoker backed against a wall, hands up. "Who the hell are you?" "People who don't want trouble," Marcus said, scanning the dim interior. It was a shipping warehouse, rows of crates, the smell of oil and dust. "We just need a few minutes." The smoker swallowed. "This place is locked at night. You shouldn't." A metallic thud cut him off, someone testing the warehouse door from outside. Marcus motioned for silence. Another thud. Then the sound of boots on gravel, moving along the wall. "They're checking for another way in," Quire whispered. Marcus spotted a staircase to the mezzanine above. Up, he said, motioning. They climbed quickly, their boots barely touching the metal steps. From the mezzanine's shadow, Marcus could see through a gap in the wall. 3 hawkmen scanning the service road, one speaking into a radio. The van pulled up slowly. Scar stepped out. Even from this distance, Marcus could see the pale scar on his chin. Scar's eyes swept the warehouse walls, lingering on the very window where Marcus crouched. Then Scar smiled. He pointed at the side door. 2 of his men moved toward it. Marcus's mind raced. If they came in here, the USB would be as good as gone. He turned to Quire. We split. Draw them thin. Quire frowned. That's suicide. It's survival. I'll take high ground. You slip out the front. Before Quire could argue, the side door slammed open. Hawkmen poured in, their boots echoing off the warehouse floor. Marcus darted across the mezzanine, knocking over a crate to draw attention. One man below shouted, and fired a burst upward. Splinters rained down, but Marcus kept moving, ducking behind a stack of pallets. Below, Quire slipped through the shadows toward the front, but a hawkman caught movement and gave chase. Marcus spotted a heavy chain dangling from the ceiling, hooked to a cargo hoist. He wrapped it around his forearm, swung out, and dropped onto the man chasing Quire, knocking him sideways into a stack of drums. Gunfire cracked. Scar's voice barked orders. Calm, precise. Alive. Bring him alive. Marcus grabbed Quire's arm. Go. They sprinted toward the loading bay doors. Outside, rain started again, masking their footsteps. But as they reached the street, a black SUV cut them off, headlights blinding. The passenger window rolled down. McKinley sat inside. Get in. Marcus didn't hesitate. He shoved Quire into the back seat and climbed in after him. The SUV screeched into motion, tires spitting water. Behind them, Scar emerged from the warehouse, watching them go, his face unreadable except for that faint knowing smile. Inside the SUV, McKinley kept his eyes on the road. I told you they'd come back. Marcus leaned forward. And I told you they're not playing by any rules. McKinley's grip tightened on the wheel. Then it's time we stop pretending this is just a street crime. Marcus stared at him. You know what they're after? McKinley glanced at the rearview mirror, then at Marcus. Yes, he said, and now I know you have it. The SUV's wipers thudded in rhythm with the pounding in Marcus's ears. Rain streaked across the glass, smearing the neon glow from roadside signs. Quire sat silent in the back, one hand gripping the seatbelt, the other clenched around his knee. Marcus kept his eyes on McKinley. You said you know what they're after. Talk. McKinley's jaw flexed. That USB you're carrying, it's not just files, it's a kill list. Targets from a classified joint task force operation that went off the rails. Hawk unit was sent overseas under a private security contract. Off the books, they were ordered to eliminate suspected insurgent collaborators, but someone added names that didn't belong. Journalists, aid workers, even U.S. personnel. Marcus's stomach dropped. And you're telling me my name's on it? McKinley shook his head. No, but you were stationed with one of the people who found out. That's why they came to you. The woman who gave me the USB? Marcus asked. Her name's Layla Ward, McKinley said. Former Intel analyst. She went dark 2 weeks ago. She's the missing 3rd victim from the shooting. I think she saw you as her last shot before they closed in. Marcus looked out at the rain-streaked highway. If this is true, why aren't you taking this to your department? McKinley gave a bitter laugh. Because I did, and the file vanished. My captain told me to drop it, told me I was chasing ghosts. Quire finally spoke, his voice low. They're not ghosts, they're cleaners. I served with 2 of them in Hellman before they disappeared into the contractor world. No oversight, no conscience. Marcus's mind went back to the first time he saw Scar's face, half hidden in the glare of that street lamp a week ago, his hand steady as he dumped something into the drain. Where does the list lead? Marcus asked. He pulled out a folded city map, worn at the creases, and tossed it onto Marcus's lap. A red circle was drawn around an industrial complex by the river. Midtown Tech Labs. The badge we pulled from the drain belongs there. Officially, they do defense tech R&D. Unofficially, they store digital intel recovered from Black Ops. Marcus studied the map. And you think the master file's there? McKinley nodded. And maybe Layla, if she's still alive. Quire leaned forward. You're talking about hitting a private facility guarded by the same people we're running from. McKinley's eyes stayed on the wet road ahead. Exactly. Marcus weighed the risk. He'd walked into hostile territory before, but this was different. No backup, no flag, no medevac waiting if it went wrong. Still, he couldn't stomach the idea of doing nothing while a kill list circulated with innocent names on it. He glanced at McKinley. What's the plan? McKinley's lips pressed into a thin line. We get in, pull the core server's data, and get out before Hawk knows we're there. The USB has the decryption key. Without you, it's useless. Marcus felt the weight of the small drive in his coat pocket. Then they'll expect me. That's why we won't go through the front, McKinley said. The complex has a storm drain feeding into the river. Security's lighter there. Once we're in, we've got 15 minutes before automated sweeps. The SUV slowed as they turned onto a service road, gravel crunching under the tires. McKinley killed the headlights and coasted to a stop under a stand of pine trees. From here, McKinley said, we walk. The rain had tapered off, leaving the night thick with the smell of wet earth. Marcus pulled his jacket tighter, scanning the tree line as they moved. Quire carried nothing but a length of metal pipe, but the way he held it told Marcus he'd used it before. They reached the chain-link fence surrounding the complex. Beyond it, floodlights swept in slow arcs, illuminating steel warehouses and the faint glint of razor wire. McKinley crouched by a panel where the fence sagged near the ground. Cut here, crawl through, he whispered. One by one, they slipped inside, keeping low as they moved across patches of shadow between the sweeping lights. Marcus's boots were silent on the wet grass. At the rear of the largest warehouse, they found the storm drain, its grate old and rusted. McKinley pried it open, the metal groaning softly. Down, McKinley said. The tunnel was narrow, the concrete slick. The smell of stagnant water filled the air. They crawled in darkness, guided only by the faint glow of McKinley's shielded flashlight. After 50 yards, the tunnel sloped upward, ending in a maintenance hatch. McKinley pushed it open just enough to peer through. Clear, he said. They emerged into a storage bay filled with crates stamped with military codes. A faint hum of servers came from a glass-walled room across the bay. Marcus's pulse quickened. That it? That's it, McKinley said. They moved quickly, McKinley swiping a stolen access card. The door clicked open, and the server room's cold air rushed over them. Marcus slid the USB into a terminal. Lines of code spilled across the screen as the decryption began. Then the hum of the servers was drowned out by another sound, the slow clap of hands behind them. Marcus turned. Scar stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 Hawk operatives. His smile was thin, his pistol leveled. Sergeant Hale, Scar said, you really should have stayed asleep on that sidewalk. Marcus's mind raced. The progress bar on the terminal was at 70%. 15 seconds, maybe 20, until the files were unlocked. Scar took a step forward. Slide the drive over, and maybe you walk out of here. McKinley shifted his weight, his hand inching toward his holster. Quire gripped the metal pipe tighter. Marcus looked from Scar to the terminal, then back. And that's when the floodlights outside cut out. The room plunged into darkness, save for the glow of the terminal screen. Somewhere in the shadows, a voice Marcus hadn't heard in over a decade said quietly, "Move, Sergeant."